Hello, Susie. Thanks very much for joining me again on the show.
Hello, Carl. I always enjoy our conversations. I'm super excited to talk to you about Point A and to talk to you about life and life in golf.
Yeah, no, we've had some wonderful conversations in the past, and they've always been very warmly received, Susie. But you mentioned Point A, and for anybody who doesn't know about Point A, you wrote a magnificent book which should be in every golfer's library called Point A. But again, for those who didn't perhaps hear the previous podcast that we've done, just revisit Point A for us. What is Point A all about?
So my book is called Golf from Point A, and it's it's a philosophical book. It's not a how-to book, and the philosophy is that at point A you have a brand new beginning. In the alphabet, the letter A, there's nothing that comes before it, and so every shot, every day, every moment is a brand new moment to do your very best with what you have right where you are. So point A is a brand new beginning that you can have a reset, and you can have an intention of what you want to do with it without the baggage of your past. So if you look at, I don't know, I was listening to TV the other day, and there was a gentleman on that had been in the war, and he had lost all of his limbs. And he was a motivational speaker. And I stopped and I wanted to hear what he said. And the question was, well, what is your message? And he says, my message is to leave your past behind.
Yeah.
He says, because I'm at a new moment right now, and I have to decide how I'm going to live today with what I have. And when you can leave your past behind and not carry those burdens with you on the golf course, if you have a poor hole, if you have a bad shot, if you can actually start over, get rid of your past at point A, do the very best you can, and really not trying to make the future happen, but to allow the future to unfold. So we're not trying to make the ball go anywhere from point A to point B. We're doing the best we can at point A to make our golf stroke according to the picture that we create in our head. And then the biggest thing that we can do at point A is to just let it go.
Yeah.
So in your golf swing, you want it to be as free as it possibly can. And what we notice at point A, or what we notice on the golf course, is that we are emotionally attached to the results.
Yes.
We have a fear of where the ball's going to go. And so when we make our move, so much of our attempt is to control the future, to control where the ball is going. I got to make the ball get on the green. And when we play our best golf, and all of us have felt this at some point, is that we just made this move and it felt like there was no ball there at all.
Yeah.
And the ball just takes off. And the ball will land somewhere. We never know where it's going to land because we can't predict the future. And the more that we allow things to happen and let it go, the more it actually matches the picture that we have created in our head. But we in our society are so control oriented that we try to control the future. So point A is a place where we are in the present, that we give up our past so it's not a burden, and that we actually allow the future to unfold rather than trying to make it happen and try. So my other word at point A is allowing. So instead of trying so hard, because we know in golf, the harder we try, the worse we tend to get. But the more that we can be in the moment and just allow things to unfold and stay in this peak state of being in our process and not being so result oriented. That's really what point A is about. And the idea is to work on ourselves and our inner world to allow the outer world to happen. And our outer world is where our ball's going to go. But understanding what we can control and can't control at point A.
I mean, amongst the many things that I love about Point A, Susie, is that it ties into one of my core beliefs, is that to get the best out of yourself at golf, it's another A word, you have to be adaptable, don't you? You have to be able to adapt to whatever you've got on that day. And not even only what you've got on that day, whatever happens through the course of a round, because there's always going to be variation, isn't there? You know, you feel great at one point, you feel low at another one, you feel, and essentially point A allows you to be adaptable, as you say, doesn't it? Because you keep coming back to the possibility of this next particular task.
Yes, and what we want to recognize is that our minds and our bodies are designed for flexibility and adaptability.
Yeah.
And golf tries to lure us into this idea that we are robots and that we're going to have the same swing every time, and we're going to make the same putting stroke every time. And that's just what people are practicing, that I want this quote unquote muscle memory so that my body works the same. And what we realize is that once we're on the golf course, nothing has the sameness. The ball is sitting up, the ball is sitting down. You're into the wind, you're with the wind. You have to carry the bunker. Everything's about adaptability. So once we open our minds up to that and recognize that there is no same swing, there is no consistency, then we can allow that to just be, and we're not as frustrated. When we're trying to control what we can't control, that's what leads to frustration. And adaptability is about life, and that's why golf from point A is really life from point A.
Yeah. And it's such a great message, as you say, for life, isn't it? That if you can live that way, that yesterday's over, tomorrow's not happen. I know these are all cliches, I suppose, but it's the only place that you can be effective, isn't it? Being where you are today and making the most out of it.
Well, it is a cliche, but once you understand how minds work, not your mind, but minds, and minds are thinkers. And so the only place that we can think is about the past and about the future. We're not thinking in the present. We're doing in the present. So in my book, I talk about the thinker and the doer. And the doer is where we do everything. It's a subconscious or old, habits, and this is what we do. We don't actually think while we're doing. And so once we notice that my mind is in the past, my mind is in the future, how do I get my mind to be in the present? And this is a place where not as many people are interested. They're really interested in, how do I shallow out my club, or how do I compress the ball better? How do I do these physicalities? But what it is that when the mind is in the present, it's quiet.
Yes.
And we don't train or practice quietness. And when you meditate, when you sit quietly and focus on one thing, your mind is screaming because we have trained it to be everywhere and thinking about so many things. So the training really is, how do I quiet my mind so that I can be in the moment? And when I was a player, I used to say that I was playing golf from point A, I said I was playing in a meditative state. I wasn't ever thinking about the past. I wasn't ever thinking about the future. I was just doing whatever unfolded. Oh, this is a wedge shot. This is 100 yards. This is the ball sitting down. I've got to come. Yeah, it just unfolded. But my mind was never about the past or the future. I was highly trained. What I've noticed, Carl, is that as I've gotten to my wonderful age and I play a lot less, that when I do play, my skills of a player, and I've been a tournament player my whole life, are unpracticed. And so they have diminished. And the last time I played an event, I played in 2 events in the last year, but the first one a year ago, I went and I was not at peace throughout the whole 2 days.
Really?
I was inside churning because I was unpracticed of how to quiet my mind and what should I be thinking about in order to play allow the best potential to come out. And my mind was fragmented and agitated and frustrated. And I was like, wow, this takes a training.
Yes.
And as a tournament player, it came so naturally to me
Did it?
that as a coach, I was like, oh, this is what you do.
Mm.
And then when I went to play, I was like, oh my God, I forgot to do that. I forgot to do this. I forgot to do that, because I was untrained. And it really takes an awareness that your inner world needs to be trained just as much, if not more, than your physical, golf swing. And yes, there's a balance between the two. And yes, you need to keep working on your physical skills, but learning how to think on the golf course and quiet your mind on the golf course is so valuable. And that's what point A is. Point A is really a tool for when things aren't going well.
Yeah.
If you're playing well, you don't need to think about anything other than I'm just flowing along. I'm in the flow. This is great. But then all of a sudden you make a triple bogey, which is what I made. Actually, I made a quad. I had a 9 the other day. When I can't tell you 25 years, I've had a 9. And my mind went berserko, Carl.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and I said something for the first time, and I'm not sure I've ever said this to myself. I says, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to give up. And I thought to myself, I watched my mind because it's trying to protect me because it hurts so bad, the 9. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never thought that before because I'm not a giver upper. And I was like, so what is my mind trying to do? So let's just get back to point A, forget that this happened and keep going. And I was talking to somebody and they go, wow, you could do that. And I said, well, yeah, because I noticed my mind went crazy. Now, my mind is not me.
Yes. Yeah.
I have a mind, right, Carl?
Yeah.
I have a hand. I have a mind. I have emotions. And when I understood that there's a separateness that's not really me. I used to think that I was my mind, that I gave up. I didn't give up. My mind gave up.
Yeah.
Because it was trying to protect itself. And when you can actually say, okay, let's just start over, point A, let's walk to the next hole. Let's watch my mind go crazy, watch my emotions go crazy. That's me. I'm watching these things. And it allowed me to have this separateness because I've been training that. And that separateness allowed me to start over on the next hole. And then I played just like I normally play again.
And that's such an enormous, huge point, Susie, isn't it? That in that situation that you perfectly described, where you've been able to observe your thoughts as opposed to be the thoughts. And,
oh my gosh.
And you also, again, a fantastic point that you've made is this understanding that what's the purpose of our mind primarily? It's to protect us, isn't it? It's trying to protect us all the time. And all these crazy things that it does is trying at some level to protect it. And I think when we can understand that when we're out on the golf course, and a lot of the problems that we encounter is because of the mind's desire to protect us from outcomes and emotions and things like that, we can actually start to let it settle down. In many ways, just talk to the mind and say, I'm okay. Things are going to be okay. I know you're trying to help me here, but I'm all right. Let's just get back to the possibility of this next shot, this next opportunity.
Well, without the awareness of that, you don't have the tool.
No.
So, and this is what I mean by people looking introspectively and looking at their inner world. So many people don't look at their inner world, and they would have said, wow, I just hit that shot because I don't know how to hit that shot, or my swing failed me, or, I need to go back and work on my emotions so that it never fails me like that. So they don't look inwardly. They still are looking at their golf swing and how this happened. But if you can actually look into your inner world, then you can notice that these things are happening. And with that awareness, you can then apply tools. But I believe that so many people are oblivious to their inner world that they don't even know that they can look introspectively. And when they do, they go, oh, I'm just terrible. I just can't believe I did that. Anytime I'm under pressure, I just fail, you know, and they put this I. And as soon as you make a statement like that, it's so very powerful. I just failed. My golf swing just failed me. I'm terrible. I blow it every time. And those are powerful statements that your self-esteem, your inner world grasps onto, and you become that. But if you're introspective and you notice my thoughts are going crazy, not I'm going crazy, I'm not being emotional, I have emotions. And that separateness is what allows us to actually calm down, I believe. I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned in the past few years, is to separate.
Separate, yeah. And I think statements to yourself like, I've just had the thought that I'm useless, or I've just had the thought that I can't do this, creates that separation, doesn't it? There's an understanding you've had the thought, but you don't have to be the thought.
It's so true. And it's this perspective that we have, and understanding how we actually can not literally control our thoughts, because our thoughts will come just like they naturally do to protect us. But then we then have a choice to say, well, what self-talk do I want? And to choose it. And that's why point A is so valuable, because I chose to say, okay, let's just get back to point A, and let's just, you know, allow yourself to calm down and start over again, and let's go. But you can choose what you're going to think. You can choose to just keep beating yourself up because you don't know that you can choose something else.
Yeah. And I suppose as well, you said that, you know, for a lot of people, there's a reluctance to look at that inner world. And I suppose the golf industry feeds that in a way, doesn't it? By there's always a supposed solution in the golf swing. You're not putting pressure into the ground, or you're not shallowing out, or whatever. And whilst you know, working on the golf swing has its time and a place, I think ultimately it always comes back to dissatisfaction, doesn't it? Because all those things don't really get to the heart of a lot of the issues.
No, and the heart of the issue is the heart. It's true. But what I've noticed in golf instruction, you know, we have so many golf instructors now, and it's a very big industry, and everybody's really trying to get their niche and trying to figure out what little part can I play in this big industry. And it seems to get more and more complex rather than more and more simple. And the way that I coach, probably the way that you coach, and a number of coaches that I know, it's so much simpler than what they're making it, that I'm kind of mind boggled. I had a young lady come, super talented, and I said, first lesson, I said, okay, you know, make a movement, because once they make a move, I know what they're trying to do in their head. But I want them to know what they're trying to do. So I watch them, and then I start asking questions. And I was in shock at what she was trying to do. I was like, and
what, in terms of a concept?
Yeah, and then what she was actually moving like, and she hit it 6 inches fat. And I mean, I'm watching her, she's an athletic young lady. And I go, okay, what are you trying to do? And she started to tell me, and I says, where'd you get that idea? She's like, oh, I've been taking lessons online. And I was like, oh, and I knew who this person was. And I was like, really? And I go, what's the purpose here? Well, I have to hold this angle, and I have to compress, and I have to get into my left side. And I was just like, I mean, she didn't even have any clue where the club was or how to feel the club. And we got back to these basics of feel the weight of the club, let it go over your shoulder, your body disappears. It will just happen. And it took her a long time. She goes, this is exactly opposite of what I've been trying to do. And I'm like, I could not understand what she was trying to do. And I've been in the industry now for 50 years. I've never heard any of this stuff before. And I was just like, I have no idea really what you're trying to do, but it's not working, right? And all of a sudden she's starting to let the club swing, and let her body just calmly, comfortably. And really golf stroke is a comfort, right? You don't have to be in all these,
Positions.
yeah, make it a pretzel. And it was just fascinating to watch what happened. And so golf instruction, in my opinion, in the way that I was coached, has to get to its simplest form.
Yeah.
And it has to get to the essence of it. And the essence of it is there's a motion that the golf stroke has a beginning and an ending and nothing in the middle. Why is that so important? Because everybody's looking at a ball to hit. And what happens is when you try to hit a ball, you're going to do something at the bottom. You're going to do something at the ball, which is exactly opposite of what should be happening, right, Carl?
Absolutely.
I mean, the club should be moving through the ball with no variations, no manipulation.
No flinches. Yeah.
No flinches, no tryings, and it should be moving through the ball at the greatest speed that tool is designed for. And when we try to put something in the middle and we're going to hit a ball, our muscles ignite and they do something. And now when I play and I'm not as trained, I notice, oh my God, I did something there. And I'm like, I used to train to do nothing through there, just create this speed, and the club face is nice and calm as it moves through the ball. But as soon as you put a ball there to hit, your subconscious is going to try to do something in the middle. And that's what I find is the hardest thing, is to get people to understand that there is no ball to hit. There's a motion, and the ball happens to get in the middle of that motion. And the better the motion, the better the ball goes. And the motion doesn't end until the end, which is holding that finish. And so at every level, people want an idea, give me a swing thought. I've been doing these talks about golf from point A, and I can do it in a ballroom with 1,000 people, and somebody, they will get something out of it. But they're always like, well, give me one swing idea. And I said, I'll give everybody one swing idea, and every single person will get better if they do this. And they're like, what's that? And I said, hold your finish. And they're like, what? And I'm like, hold your finish. Just stay in balance, stay there, watch the ball from a held finish. If your stroke knows that it has to get to there and hold, it will stop trying to get to the ball. And so many of us are doing something at the ball, and then they never get to the finish. And it's fascinating, because my students that I tell that to, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't get to my finish. It's the simplest task, something everyone can do, but something no one does.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
It is fascinating. And I think of, great books that have been written in the past, Susie, books like Swing the Clubhead that Ernest Jones wrote in the 1930s, when a guy who lost one of his legs in the First World War, and talked about a knife on the end of a string and swinging that, and if you put anything into it, that gets disrupted. And it's almost like the essence of the game was written so many years ago, but we've gone down all these intellectual routes, and I think we're now sort of in danger of drowning in all that intellect, aren't we? And I think people are paying for information a lot of the time as opposed to understanding, and there's a big difference between the two.
Well, that's so true. I've been studying a lot about, how the mind works, and how the emotions work, and our heart, and this kind of stuff. And I'll read a book, and I'll read that book for a year, Carl.
Yeah.
Until that concept is actually a part of me.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a concept, it's one idea. And it takes a long time
Mm.
until something is actually a part of you.
Yeah.
And information is just information. It clogs up the brain. It makes our brain stimulated to actually work. But a concept like golf from point A to just be at point A on every shot, it takes
Time.
only that thought, and it
Yeah.
takes time, and it
Yeah.
takes training.
Mm.
And in order to just say, oh, I can let that go. Well, people don't realize that you can actually just let things go.
Yeah.
That we're so, our society is so much, I've got to fix it. I hit a bad shot. I've got to figure out what I'm doing. I have to fix it. I have to think about it. I have to know what I did wrong. I have to know what I want. Now, all of your thoughts are in the past.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just let it go. So
Accept it.
accept it and let it go. Get back to point A. And that's what I say to my students. I said, what do you do with a poor shot, a poor outcome? And they're like, you try to figure it out. And I'm like, no, you forget it and move on. And when you forget it, and they're like, well, I can't forget it. And I'm like, that's an untrained mind, because you've trained your mind to go backwards and think about it, because that's the way our society is thinking. But if you just let it go and start afresh and say, what do I want to do? Oh, I want to swing to my finish. I have a beginning and an ending and nothing in the middle, and I'm going to swing to my ending. And if you know that you're going to get to your ending, your club will get there so much more peacefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without a lot of stuff going on. And so we have to have a task on the golf course that's so simple that we can do it, yet we don't do it all the time, but it makes us think about it. And that's what focuses our mind on only one thing. And if we can do just one thing on the golf course like that, then we'll get better at it.
You mentioned the heart there, Susie, which I think is intriguing that you've highlighted that. And I've talked for a long time with players about following a path with a heart. The idea of what it is that you're doing has got some resonance deep within you, as means something to you, a heart to it. We talked early on before we got started about competitiveness, and I think the illusion of being happy at some point in the future when you achieve this or achieve that. What are your thoughts on all of that now, about real genuine purpose for playing the game for its own sake?
Well, it's I'm glad you asked that. I had a student, she's 17. She comes to me and her dad's with her, and she's like, I want to learn to play golf. And I said, oh, okay, so you're 17. What do you want to do with it? I just want to enjoy it. I want to have a nice hobby with golf, and it seems like a lot of fun. And I've done it a few times, been out to the range, and I have family that has played and given me a few ideas. And I said, okay, well, let's see you make a movement, and then we'll know where to go. And I'm putting the golf balls out, and I said, so would you say that you're athletic or you're not athletic? And she goes, oh, I'm athletic. And I said, oh, so what sports have you played? And she says, I haven't played any. And I said, okay, so how do you know you're athletic? She says, well, because I can jump out of trees and I can do all of these things. And I said, so where do you go to school? And she goes, oh, the high school down here. And I said, well, where did you go to middle school? Or she goes, well, I went to Waldorf school. Do you know anything about the Waldorf school?
No.
Oh my goodness. So the Waldorf school is what I would call an enlightenment school. So it's totally not the way that our schools are run.
Right.
So Waldorf is like, everybody looks like they're doing a million different things, and they're all doing their own thing. And they learn in a totally non-structural way.
Right.
That's the only, I don't know that much about it, but I did look into it when my kids were small, and I was like, oh, I would love for them to learn this way. So I knew a little bit about, it's just freedom of discovery, creativity, and development in a very natural way. That's my words. I don't really know what it is, but So I said to the dad, I said, wow, I wanted my kids to go, but that wasn't going to float in my house. And he goes, well, I went in kicking and screaming. My wife really wanted the kids to do this. And he says, it's the best thing that ever happened. I says, well, I kind of teach the Waldorf way. And so I went on and I was coaching her, and she was the most brilliant student I'd ever had.
Really?
I mean, the most brilliant. She was free. She was open. She didn't want a result. She never got frustrated. She was like figuring stuff out. Every time I asked her a question, she would thoughtfully think about, oh yeah, this is the way the club works. Let me try it again. And she just wants to play because it's a hobby.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the most beautiful thing in the world. When I was a youngster, I played because I loved the game.
Yeah.
And yes, I was competitive because I wanted to develop myself to the highest level. But I did it out of pure joy. Nobody had to tell me to practice. Nobody told me when to practice. I didn't overwork myself in the gym. I didn't overwork myself by watching all these Instagram things and learning how to hit it farther and do this. I just loved the game. So now I'm kind of like, I love this student. I'm like, I'm going to help her develop, because that's the essence of our humanness, is, as you said, adaptability, flexibility, creativeness, allowing the weight of the club to do the work. And she had perfect balance, and she had no trying or even self-consciousness of, I have to do it right. And I just think that we're a little, the golf has just changed a lot, don't you think,
Yeah,
Carl?
absolutely. Yeah. I think we've lost a lot of the essence of what the game truly means to be out there and creating shots. Just with that, Susie, a conversation that we had before we started, where do you feel now in terms of teaching better players, the pros and the cons, the challenges, and then sort of club golfers? What is it that really gives you joy when you coach?
I love to coach. I would love to coach beginners. I would love to coach tour players. I love to coach people.
Yeah.
So people that are open and that come. I always say, I don't advertise in my business. People just happen to show up. How did you find me? And I have this idea that whoever's meant to be in front of me will show up. And as I've developed as a player, and as I develop in life, the people that are supposed to be there are showing up. And what I've noticed is, with my attitude of, what's really important here is developing humans.
Yeah.
It's not really developing golfers. But golf is such a great game to develop humans that I absolutely love the game for anyone, but I really want someone that's just wants to develop, and I don't know, the better the players, they're looking for the machines, they're looking for the quick answers, they're looking for the physical. I've coached a few good players lately, and they want more than what I have anymore. What I have is a natural, holistic way to go about the game. And so I love my club golfers. I love my club golfers because they have the essence of the game. They're not going to go out and try to qualify for the US Open, but I have young players not young, but lady that just qualified for the senior amateur, and but that's still the essence, right? You play because you love it. I remember when I was coaching Michael Thompson, and he had just finished just gotten into the finals of the US Amateur. And so he knew he was going to go to the US Open and go to the Masters. He hadn't played his final round. And I walked back in from where he finished. I was walking back into the clubhouse, and the emotion for me just came out, and I was walking, it was a good mile out there, and I was bawling my eyes out, because I know that the love of the game, he's an amateur, the love of the game and the hard work that he's put into it, and what he's going to get to experience, and how beautiful it was. And
Mm.
we haven't gotten into money, and we hadn't gotten
Yeah.
into raising your family on the money, and we hadn't gotten into all of the complexities of that, and the beauty of the game, and to be able to get the most out of yourself. It's such an emotional win, you
Mm.
know?
Mm.
And it just brought it out of me. I just love the game for what it is. And it is a game. And the more that we can find peace within ourselves, then the game is fun. And when we don't find peace within ourselves, it's frustration.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you mentioned good players there, and the modern way of thinking. And my sort of theory on a lot of it, Susie, is that I think people fall into the trap, not just good players at all levels, they fall into the trap of believing that somebody can give them some moves in the golf swing or something to work on that will ultimately protect them from bad shots, or they will eliminate bad shots, which is the biggest illusion or delusion of all. And I think in many ways that's a metaphor for the bigger picture, that if you're going to go out into the world with your shoulders back and embrace the world, you're going to have to deal with setbacks, aren't you? You're going to have to deal with misputs and miscuts and all of the rest of it. And I think the more you can actually embrace the reality of that, that nothing in terms of technique is ever going to protect you from those bad days and bad rounds and poor outcomes. The paradox is things tend to settle down and you get better at expressing your capabilities.
Yeah, the more that you settle down is the more your potential will come out. But people, I think I've noticed, even myself, when I'm caddying at a high level or playing at a high level, I kind of have this little knot in my stomach of, you know, trying so hard. I had an experience this summer, Carl, that was life-changing for me. Amazing. I'm coaching a young lady that has a disability, a neurological disability.
Mm.
And I've been with her for 10 years, since she's now 24. And when things started happening in her body, she can't walk. And so she wanted to play a sport that, you know, because she's very athletic. She was a basketball player when things started to happen in her body. So she came to golf, and she's been working on her body, trying to get it stronger to be able to play more and more golf. And we went to the US Adaptive Open together.
Right.
And USGA just put together the US Adaptive Open 3 years ago. So it's a 3-year-old tournament. And I went last year with her to Pinehurst and caddied for her.
Wow.
And this year we were in Kansas, and I got to caddy for her. Last year, she keeps working on her body, but her body has a disorder called dystonia, where her muscles will cramp up. Her mind sends her muscles a signal to contract,
Mm.
and it's on her whole right side of her body. And
Right.
so she can't walk. She's in a wheelchair, but she can kind of use crutches and get over to the ball. And it looks like she's fine because she's standing there, but it's just her left side that's working, and her
Right.
right side is just, you know, kind of there. And at Pinehurst, when she would play, because of the physical wear and tear on her body as she was playing, it would get weak. Her body would get weaker and weaker. In the last 3 holes of each of the 3 rounds that she played, she fell down after every shot. And it was really quite, you know, well, emotional. I was bawling my eyes out as she's just, you know, clawing her way to the end.
Mm.
And this year we went out, and she's been doing training with a trainer, and working a lot with me. And she went out and she set a new US Adaptive Women's Open record. She shot 69 the first day.
Really?
Yeah, she shot
At
69.
Pinehurst?
No, this one was
Oh,
in
sorry.
Kansas at something station. It was a great golf
Mm.
course. They have to do flat golf courses because at the
Yeah.
Adaptive Open, they have people, you know, amputees
Yeah.
and neurological. They have emotional. They have so there's autistic people. There's short stature people. There's visual impairment. They have all these different divisions. And so then she has to play the next 2 rounds, and her body doesn't do as well because it's the wear and tear. But she did great. She shot 78 the next day, and she's leading, and she's doing great. And we get to the last day, and life happens, and she makes a double on the second hole and like a double on the third hole, and then she makes an eagle on the fourth hole.
Really? Right.
I mean, it was incredible, Carl.
Yeah.
But what happens is you're out there, and you, meaning me, and the people that are watching this are watching through a whole different lens, because we're watching these people with these disabilities give their heart and soul to a game that gives them life. And that's what golf's about. Golf's about giving life, giving an enjoyment, purpose, a self-challenge. And she played with a gentleman that was a triple amputee, yes, from the war. And then another gentleman that was a single amputee. And the gentleman that was a triple amputee, his caddy was a double amputee from the war. And so it takes on a whole new meaning. And that's what my life and golf is about now, is to look through a lens that this is life, and life isn't always about the highest level of competitiveness. It's about playing a game for the love of the game that gives us the opportunity to be outside, to be with other people, to have novelty in our lives. Every situation is new. Have problem solving, have socializing, to be in nature. It's just, that's what the game's about. And that's what I want to portray to people, that it's not about the angles in your golf swing. It's about
the experience.
The experience. And when we can embrace that and go out with the intention that I'm going to go out and enjoy the people I'm with, and I'm going to enjoy myself. And how do you, people are always like, I'm like, what do you want? You're here for a golf lesson. Well, I want to have fun while I play. Well, having fun is a result oriented. It's not a process oriented thing. At the end of the day, you go, oh boy, that was really fun. But you might have been working the whole time, doing your process, being at point A, working on your self-talk, calming yourself down, allowing your body to move freely. That all takes conscious awareness. Energy, and that it doesn't look like you're having fun, but by the end of the day, you're like, man, I was the best person I could be. I was calmer than I normally am. I was more talkative than I normally am. I found out about so-and-so, and I have a new friend now. And at the end of the day, that's what makes it fun. And that, to me, is what the essence of the game is.
And the joy is in the struggle then, isn't it? Because you acknowledge that.
The joy is in the struggle. Life is a struggle at times. Life doesn't just go along as everything's good. Life is a struggle, and it's what we do with it. And to watch these people at this US Adaptive Open, it sets you in like, do I really have an issue in my life?
Yes. Yeah.
What they're doing to just get themselves to the golf course and then to play 18 holes after, well, so Bailey Bish wins the US Adaptive Women's Open, and she's a US Open champion.
Wow.
And it's the greatest thing in the world. She gets a picture, and the trophy is too heavy for her to hold, so I get to hold it for her. And I'm like, I'm holding a US Open, trophy. I didn't win it.
No.
I'm a part of a team, and it changes everything. And Bailey now has a 5-year exemption into this tournament.
That's incredible, isn't it?
It is incredible. And the camaraderie in this event was overwhelming. I had, you don't see that. And the people that came out to the golf course, 18th hole, 17th hole, to walk her in, and the cheering, and when she got her trophy, and it makes me cry even now, because that's what golf is about, is to have this life that we have our challenges, and golf is a challenge. Golf is a mini life. And what
Yes.
do we do with it? And what is our purpose with it?
Yeah. Do we respond or do we react? And I think an awful lot of people just react, don't they, rather than respond.
I think that's beautiful, but we have to have an awareness for that.
Mm, mm,
And years ago, I shared with Bailey about, the concept of point A, and she doesn't talk about it much because she doesn't talk too much about things like that. She just says, I just do the best I can with what I'm doing. And they're like, well, were you nervous coming in? She goes, no, I was too busy just doing the best I could with what I had. She just,
yeah.
I really didn't know what I was shooting.
Mm,
And that's the essence of being on the golf course, not keeping your tally and not knowing where you are, and that I have to get better and I have to make up for this and I have to do that. It's the experience of doing your very best, and then the results happen. And now she gets to enjoy whatever the work that she's put into it.
mm,
And she's right back at it, working at it. She's an amazing lady. In order for her body to work, since her muscles contract so much, she gets Botox in
really?
her
And,
right side.
right.
And it's actually quite traumatic. She has to do it 4 times a year to kind of deaden those muscles.
Mm,
And she needs so many shots, Carl.
mm,
It's very difficult. But every time she does that, she loses her golf swing, because now her muscles are like nothing. And
completely
so she
different.
has to work it back in. And we're like, golfers, we lose our golf swings.
Mm.
It's never going to be the same.
Day to day.
A day to day, it goes up, it goes down.
Mm,
And if you can get to the essence of your motion,
mm,
which is feeling the weight of the golf club
mm,
and letting the golf club do more of the work, and understanding that you're just making a motion that has a beginning and ending and nothing in the middle, and you get to your finish, really good things can happen
mm.
if you understand your tools. And that's what I coach, and it gets to the simplicity.
Yeah. And what you're talking about, Susie, or what we have been talking about is perspective, isn't it? Is having a perspective on the game. And I've said many times that, I think it was Richard Bandler who said many, many years ago, that the greatest illusion that we have as human beings is that we're eternal, that we're going to go on forever, and there will always be another chance and there'll always be another round to play. But it's almost the ultimate arrogance, isn't it, to think of anything other than this round as being why do we assume there's going to be lots more rounds? We've got this round. Why the hell don't we make the most out of it? And as you say, how do you make the most out of it? You do the best you can on each shot. You interact with the environment, the people around you, and get a perspective on how special that particular opportunity is.
Oh, that's so true. And it's funny, as I look back at my career and I look back as a player, I'm like, from where I stand today, I go, oh my gosh, I was really good. And when I was a player, I didn't think I was very good, because
Right.
there's always somebody better. But now I can't do those things that I used to be able
No,
to do.
no.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so good. Now
Mm,
a side hill lie is like a challenge to me, balance and doing the right thing and holding my finish and being able to compress the ball off of this lie. I'm like, I used to just take that for granted. I was really good.
yeah.
So I am a whole new person at my age. There's
Mm,
not one cell in my body that's the same as when I was a player back then.
mm,
And now I appreciate where I'm at, but it's
mm.
nothing like what I used to
No.
be able to do. And there's so many people that, as they get older, they're like, well, I can't play very well, so I'm not going to play anymore. And
Mm,
I'm like, well, that loses the essence of the game. The
mm,
essence of the game is to just be out there with who you are at this moment. And
mm,
yes, I have changed greatly.
mm.
I'm nothing like that player, and
Yeah.
my game has changed, but I still appreciate the game. And
Yeah.
I still appreciate the challenge, and I still appreciate the opportunities that it gives me, that I can go all over the world, meet all sorts of great people, and play a game outdoors. I
Mm,
mean, how many games can we do that in our 60s, in our 70s, in our
mm.
80s?
Yeah.
It's just the most beautiful game in the world. And that's what I don't want to lose, is that essence of what the game is. And it is so much like life. It's like in life, we get frustrated because we aren't like we were when we were younger. I'm like, but we have all these new challenges. Let's just do the best we can with what we have.
Yeah. What would your suggestion then be, Susie? You know, you've talked a lot about process and obviously the key point of point A. What would you suggest for people listening to this? Because it's great listening to a podcast, and I'm sure everybody agrees point A is a good idea and that. But practically, what would you suggest to people before they go out to play golf to remind themselves each time they play to play from point A? What would be some ideas in that respect?
Well, that's a great question, because before I went out to play, I had to understand what was my intention to go out and play in this event. And I'm playing with younger people that they just out of college, they're going to play completely different than I play. And my intention, you want to set it for yourself. What do you want to get out of this? And my intention for myself is I decide who I'm going to be when I go out to play.
Yeah.
Not how am I going to play.
Yeah.
And if I can decide who I'm going to be and be proud of myself and work on myself, let this be an experience to how am I going to handle the good, how am I going to handle the not so good, and develop myself, then I'm a winner. And I always decide I'm going to play golf from point A. That's for me, I have to work on that every single day, every single round. It's not, to me, I'm the point A queen. I'm the one that, kind of discovered this and doing it. And I've been doing it for a long time, but it takes training.
But
so
you
I'm
keep
going
having to do it, don't you? Keep having to work with that.
Just like if you were meditating, just because you know how to meditate doesn't mean that those are the benefits. You have to keep doing it all the time. And every meditation is different, right? Every round is different. So that's my overall thing, is I'm going to play golf from point A. And I'm going to decide who I'm going to be. I'm going to be positive today. I'm going to have a process today. I'm going to do my picture today. I'm going to take my deep breath to relax, and I'm going to have a simple swing thought of swinging to my finish, because even I can't get to my finish anymore. It used to be automatic, and if that's automatic for you, pick something else that's not quite automatic but so simple that you can do it. But it's really about, can I stay in tune with myself, and can I create a self-talk that is healthy for myself instead of hurtful? And what happens is we notice everybody out there beating themselves up. We notice it when we're aware. And so my goal is to not beat myself up, because I made a 9. I'm like, oh my gosh, what, and the first thing I want to do is like, oh, you're just terrible. You don't play anymore. And I was like, no. So you have to decide who you're going to be. So point A is really about, starting over, deciding who you want to be, and then allowing it to happen in a golf swing, in the physical motor skill. And what we know in a motor skill is that if you think in the middle of your motor skill doesn't work very well.
No, it gets disrupted.
It's disruptive. So you have to have some training for your physical to feel comfortable that you could just swing to the ending, and something positive is going to be there. But if you're still in the place where you have to think through everything, you still have training to get to the essence of no thinking. That's really what you're trying to do on the golf course, is no thinking in the physical movement, and then watching yourself and thinking in a positive way when you're not moving. Does that make sense?
It does make an awful lot of sense. The whole conversation's made a lot of sense, and it's as ever, Susie, a fantastic conversation. And an hour always disappears in the blink of an eye whenever I chat to you, which is,
oh my gosh, it's over.
Yeah, we got there again. Where can people, obviously, just remind people about the book, and as I say, every golfer listening should have that book in the library. I firmly believe that. But just let folks know where they can get hold of that and perhaps contact you if they want to speak with you.
Yeah, that's fun because after each one of our podcasts, people have contacted me and I super appreciate that. My website is susiemeyersgolf.com and my book is Golf from Point A, and you can find it on Amazon. And I wish everyone a peaceful and happy existence on the golf course because it's all about your experience.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Susie. Always a fantastic pleasure.
Thank you, Carl. Enjoy.